voice, it's our time. Generation fighters take the stand. From shore to shore we reclaim the land. Grit and glory in every strand. In Jersey Shore we make our stand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Jersey Shore podcast. And that's S-U-R-E because we're always sure of what we're talking about. We're here with my co-hosts, Jennifer Sharman and Albert Harshaw. So our first segment, I want to talk about how internal division divides the United States. So the United States has long been regarded as one of the most powerful nations in the world. Its economic strength, military dominance, and strategic geographic location have rendered it virtually invincible to external threats. However, the greatest threat to America's continued dominance comes not from a foreign adversary, but it comes from within. As the country becomes increasingly divided, the influence of the far-left ideologies propagated by certain factions of the Democratic Party is undermining the very foundations that made the United States great. This article explores how internal division, driven by socialist, Marxist, and communist ideals, is weakening the nation, making it vulnerable to external influence, particularly from China. We will examine how Democrats' soft stance on China and infiltration by Chinese spies contribute to this decline and compare these developments with the communist goals outlined in the congressional record of January 10, 1963. Since its founding, the United States has been blessed with advantages that have made it nearly impossible to conquer from the outside. Its vast natural resources, innovative economy, and unmatched military have positioned it as a superpower. Geographically, the United States is protected by two vast oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, which act as natural barriers against invasions. The strength of the U.S. military machine has deterred would-be aggressors, making any direct
raising the flag, we ain't never gonna lag. Stone cold hearts in the land of free, galvanized to just you and me. Freedom ain't cheap, gotta hold tight. In Jersey Shore we'll win this fight. No more tears, just righteous pride. In the streets our spirits reside. Unity strong, we walk this line. One big voice, it's our time. Jersey Shore, we got the fight. Stand together. this righteous pride. In the streets our spirits reside. Unity strong, we walk this line. One big voice, it's our time. Generation fighters, take the stand. From shore to shore, we reclaim the land. Grit and glory in every strand. In Jersey Shore, we make our stand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Jersey Shore podcast. And that's SURE because we're always sure of what we're talking about. We're here with my co-hosts, Jennifer Sharman and Albert Harshaw. So our first segment, I want to talk about how internal division divides the United States. So the United States has long been regarded as one of the most powerful nations in the world. Its economic strength, military dominance, and strategic geographic location have rendered it virtually invincible to external threats. However, the greatest threat to America's continued dominance comes not from a foreign adversary, but it comes from within. As the country becomes increasingly divided, the influence of the far left ideologies propagated by certain factions of the Democratic Party is undermining the very foundations that made the United States great. This article explores how internal division, driven by socialist, Marxist, and communist ideals, is weakening the nation, making it vulnerable to external influence, particularly from China. We will examine how Democrats' soft stance on China and infiltration by Chinese spies contribute to this decline and compare these developments with the communist goals outlined in the congressional record of January 10, 1963. Since its founding, the United States has been blessed with advantages that have made it nearly impossible to conquer from the outside. Its vast natural resources, innovative economy, and unmatched military have positioned it as a superpower. Geographically, the United States is protected by two vast oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, which act as natural barriers against invasions. The strength of the U.S. military machine has deterred would-be aggressors, making any direct confrontation very difficult. The U.S. also forged strong alliances through NATO and other partnerships, further solidifying its global influence. The strength of the United States is not merely a product of its military might, but also of its ideological commitment to freedom, capitalism, and democratic governance. The American system, built on principles of individual liberty and free enterprise, fueled economic growth that was unparalleled in human history. The nation's ability to produce, innovate, and adapt allowed it to outpace rivals and maintain its position of dominance. Despite its unparalleled external strength, the United States faces its greatest threat, internal division. The nation's political landscape has become increasingly polarized, with a growing chasm between left and right. This divide is not just about policy differences, but it reflects a deeper ideological battle over the future of this country. On one side, conservative Americans believe in preserving the nation's capitalist and Judeo-Christian heritage. On the other side, far-left factions, including some Democrats, push for radical transformation of American society, embracing socialist and Marxist ideals that are at odds with the country's founding principles. This internal strife weakens the nation from within, creating vulnerabilities that foreign adversaries can exploit. The far left's influence of media, education, and government has led to the erosion of traditional American values, replacing them with divisive identity politics and anti-capitalist rhetoric. The growing acceptance of socialist and Marxist ideas among Democrats has been a significant factor in the country's decline, as these ideologies undermine the economic and social structures that have sustained American power. Now, the Democratic Party, particularly its far left wing, has played a pivotal role in deepening political divide, embracing progressive policies that prioritize government control over individual freedom. Many Democrats have shifted away from the pro-growth, pro-American stances that defined their party in the mid-20th century. Today, the party's alignment with socialist and Marxist ideals threatens the nation's core values. Look at the riots from 2020 and the pro-Hamas protests happening now. One of the most glaring issues is the Democratic Party's approach to China. Democrats have often been accused of being soft on China, prioritizing economic engagement and allowing China to take advantage of our lost mentality of peace through strength. Now we have many national security concerns. This lenient stance has allowed China to exploit the United States economically and politically, gaining influence over American institutions. China's growing power poses a direct threat to American interests, yet Democrats continue to downplay its reality. The problem extends beyond policy. Reports of Chinese spies infiltrating the highest levels of American government further underscore the threat. For example, Congressman Eric Swalwell was linked to a Chinese spy named Fang Fang, which is funny, by the way, who was involved in fundraising efforts and raising some other things for him as well. If you didn't know what I'm talking about. Senator Dianne Feinstein and New York Governor Kathy Hochul and other prominent Democrats have also faced allegations of Chinese influence. These instances are not isolated. They reflect a broader pattern of Chinese attempts to infiltrate and influence American political leaders, particularly within the Democratic Party. The media's role in this divide cannot be overstated. Many mainstream outlets have become propaganda arms for the Democratic Party, pushing narratives that align with the far-left ideologies while vilifying conservative perspectives. This media bias skews public perception, contributing to the erosion of trust in traditional American institutions. Rather than holding power accountable, the media often shields the Democratic Party from criticism, perpetuating a cycle of misinformation that keeps the public divided. And by the way, misinformation is their words. They use that a lot. The media's soft stance on China mirrors the Democrats' approach. Stories critical of China are often downplayed, while narratives that align with the far left's anti-American sentiment are amplified. This selective reporting serves to weaken the American public's resolve against foreign adversaries, especially when these adversaries are presented as benign or misunderstood. The current trajectory of the Democratic Party aligns with the communist goals outlined in the Congressional Record of January 10th, 1963. This document, which lists 45 goals of communist infiltration and subversion of American society, reads like the playbook for a far-left agenda. Among the goals are calls to discredit American culture, promote the breakdown of traditional family values, infiltrate the media, and gain control of key traditional positions in government. Now, I don't know if anyone out there has seen it, but this is all taking place now. And I tell you, look it up for yourself, January 10th, 1963. So many of these goals have been realized in modern America. The infiltration of educational institutions, the promotion of anti-American sentiment, the spread of Marxist ideology through media and entertainment are all tactics that have been successfully employed by those seeking to undermine the United States from within. The Democratic Party's embrace of these ideals, whether intentional, I believe it is, or due to ideological drift, has placed the country on a dangerous path. The United States cannot be conquered by external enemies. Its power and geographic advantages make such a scenario unlikely. However, the nation is vulnerable to internal subversion, particularly as the far-left ideologies continue to spread through key institutions. The Democratic Party, with its soft stance on China, susceptible to foreign influence and alignment with socialist and Marxist ideals, poses a significant threat to the country's future. So, to preserve the American strength, it is imperative that the public rejects these divisive ideologies. and reaffirms the principles that made the country what it was: individual freedom, capitalism, and the rule of law. Only by addressing the internal threats posed by idiotic policies of the far left and foreign influence can the United States hope to remain a beacon of freedom and prosperity in an increasingly hostile world. Kamala Harris says, "We're not going back." As she has yet to state any of her policies clearly, I'm certain that we should go back and build back what we had and make America great again. So that's my monologue, guys. What do you think? Ladies first.
I think that I think you did a wonderful job writing that, by the way.
Thank you.
I think it voices what a lot of people are feeling and are thinking. I have similar thoughts myself on those issues. You just articulated them very well that I never could. So thank you for that. China is a big concern that you've mentioned in your monologue. I just have concern with the fact that they do not seem to fear the United States anymore. They are getting more and more brazen. They've been on our watch list for years now, even before the COVID time frame. And still, we're not doing anything to stop them except for when Trump was in office. Of course, he kind of kept them at bay and actually had a good working relationship where they shouldn't say feared him, but had a respect. Now they do not. And now they're buying up land. They're buying up companies, food companies for our food products. And that's all concerning because they do not have the same standards. I'm concerned about the foods that we're eating. I'm always checking now. And if it's, made in China, I have to say that I question because I don't know the standards of quality and they aren't really favorable. They don't look favorably to the United States. So I question, could there something be tampered with? So it is concerning. And I think it's a real issue. And if our government has to take a stronger stance on that and stop allowing them to take up land near, high intelligence areas and buying up our food and lands. That's where our livelihood and our well-being comes from. So.
No, but you're right about that, Albert. And you were in the military, right. So when I mentioned, our lost mentality of peace through strength that Ronald Reagan used to say all the time.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. Peace through strength means having capacity, capability, and ability. Right. You have a lot of factors that go into what those are: armament, vessels, aircraft, personnel, training, qualifications, standards, professionalism. One of the things that makes our forces unique is that we're all volunteer military service. Okay. For a couple generations now, everyone that's there enlists. They're volunteers. And they're very professional, and everyone expects the best, wants to be the best. That's why they join. And it's a world of opportunities that you would not get as a civilian.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there's things you do in the military you don't get to do again as a civilian. And I'm not talking about bad stuff. I'm talking about there's lots of good stuff. No, we can talk about that in another show even. But
I was just curious, where did you serve at? I know you were in multiple countries.
Yeah, well, I was U.S. Navy. I was on USS LaSalle, AGF-3, Sixth Fleet flagship, Bosnia, Slovenia, Croatia. We were the first ship to go into the Black Sea and celebrate Russia's Navy's 300th anniversary. So that was very cool. Even got to go on a Russian submarine with that, so that was even cooler. And then also Mobile Inshore Underwater Warfare Unit 204, where we served in Kuwait and Iraq. And so after 9/11. And I was in Cuba for wave one for the original detainees. So, but globally, China's been playing this for a long time. They spent the last 50 years getting to this point. And they got another 20 or 30 years to go to where they wanted to be achieved. They had strategic goals and achievements they wanted to accrue over time. And they've been working on that consistently. Any hit they took, they weren't worried about it because they were still slowly marching towards their endpoint. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they're not going to be afraid. They spent a long time building up all kinds of infrastructure. A lot of it's bad. They're getting rid of whole cities that they have to knock down because they had no standards. They have concentration camps, people who fall out of ideologue or people who are of different religions. They're maltreated, destroyed, and genocided. We have to be careful what our partnerships are going to be and what for. I want a peaceful relationship, but I don't want to be at the cost of someone else's life either. Which gets me to the point where I had a debate that I did against Andy Kim surrogate, Larry Hamm, and Patricia Campos. And one of the things that came out was that at one point, one woman stated that we shouldn't be paying attention to the myths or the atrocities that happened there on October 7th, when the reality is it did happen. And my position is this: if someone, and I'll say it then, I'll say it now, if someone comes into your house, burns you out, rapes, kills your woman folk, burns your children, burns your babies, kills, murders, kidnaps, tortures, absolutely there's going to be a certain amount of retribution, and to a standard that can never happen again. Peace through strength means that should not happen because annihilation will follow. We used to have the mad doctrine, agree or disagree, but you can apply that to other folds in military geopolitics. If you do this to me, expect to meet Armageddon. Very simple. We always responded proportionately. I remember as a child growing up under Reagan, somebody descended to us. I woke up on the news at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning before school. Hey, we're taking out some oil rigs, an air base, a ship. Took out a whole fleet one time, hit an airfield. Hey, it's a good day for America. We've got the bad guys who hurt us. And we need to get back. That's peace through strength. And for the longest time, they stopped hijacking us as a result. Right?
Yeah, they did.
Right? So then 9/11 happened. Okay, no one listened to the warning signs. There was traffic. We were uncoordinated. And however, I think the government and the powers that be took it too far. Look, I've been in the farms all day today, so
I know, I hear you. Me too.
There.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All in fun.
so they got the Patriot Act, okay, which completely erodes any fundamental constitutionality within society. They were able to look at us, look abroad, and now they use it against us. And they've been doing that. They tapped in. Donald Trump joined his original campaign. They tapped into us. They watched this. They're getting more measures. They can do that. And then under Joe Biden, you see the next level. Section 203, it does need to be modified. They use social media against us. They silence one side in favor of the other. They suppress information about Hunter Biden that would have altered possibly, maybe not, but the election.
There was just a news article, which most people don't even know about either, that he pleaded guilty.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He wanted to take something called an Alfred plea, but an Alfred plea allows you to say, I'm not guilty, but I'm going to plead accept the sentence because there's enough evidence to convict me. There's a difference, but they rejected that also, thankfully. So
I didn't know
now,
that.
but keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. All full well knowing any dad, and this was said by several people on the news too. All right, and I agree with the sentiment that he's going to get pardoned. And a lot of this thing is in timing. Any dad in the world's going to do it. I would much prefer that he owned it and said it myself.
Yeah, or they'll
agree with
they'll commute a sentence, one or the other. But even though Biden said he's not going to get involved, he's still saying that. I think it's bullshit, to be honest with you. He's going to.
But for people listening, before everyone gets up in arms, we have to live in reality. The reality is, you got somebody's dad that's in control of stuff. They're going to do their utmost to protect their kid because you're going to protect your kids.
You're going to use them.
Exactly. I mean, and
that's just reality.
I mean, it's not right, but I can't really blame him because if it was my son and I had the power to do it, I would probably do the same thing. But it's not right. The whole Biden
thing. I know. Even on the lower levels in Little League.
Yeah.
If you have influence and you work for a company and you get your kid some, the coach gives some favors and some equipment to try to get your kid to play, pitcher for the rest of the year. I mean, people have been doing it for years.
I do think there has to be
Not that I agree with it happening, but I'm just saying it does happen, sadly.
But I do agree. I do think there has to be some dues paid.
There should be.
Yeah.
There should be. I mean, what's the whole family?
And plus penalty.
Yes, there should be a consequence.
And it's the whole family. I mean, one thing with me, when I
Give them
was
3 months of dead pardon.
when I was younger, I got in a lot of trouble. Like I was a convicted felon, and it's long since been expunged. I talk about it. I don't hide from it. It's been expunged a long time ago. But when I got in trouble, my dad had enough. And he said, leave him in there. And I said, what? So, and he just left me in there. And that's how I learned my lesson. You know, and I realized that I didn't want to. I'm like, what did I get myself into? I got to stop acting like a child and be an adult and be a productive member of society.
I was
That was like 20. That was like 25 years ago. But still, you know, I owned it. My dad made me own it.
Well, Hunter Biden is a prime example of getting away with stuff too much and not having any responsibility or consequences of his actions because of his family's privileges. And I say privileges just because they are. Like I tell my kids all the time, to have a cell phone is a privilege. Until you're able to pay for it yourself, it's a privilege. To have, you know, be able to be on the softball team or to have certain, you know, fancy clothes rather than just, you know, a plain old pair of black sweatpants versus Adidas sweatpants. It's a privilege to have certain things. And if your behavior starts to warrant that those privileges get taken away, then that's what happens. And he has it, like everybody has privileges in their lives. I don't care what upbringing you have or what economic status you are. There's privileges of some sort, staying up late or doing whatever it is. There's things and behaviors that are privileges. Earned privileges, exactly. And if your behavior starts to demonstrate that those privileges are not warranted, then those privileges should come away. And Hunter obviously hasn't learned that lesson very well, and he should be held accountable. He should see some kind of punishment, and whether it'll be the actual punishment that he deserves, probably not, because when your father's the president or was the president, you're going to have some favors. But
Yeah, honestly,
I take a different flip. We know he's going to get out of jail and we want him to pay a penalty. However we might feel about this, he should pay child support to the kid they won't recognize.
yeah, I believe he is.
Well, I haven't heard anything about it, and if he has, fine.
I believe he is. They just don't recognize him as part of the
But if he's doing that, at least it's a payment they're making that otherwise would not be made.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's going to get pardoned, at least have that so that can't get released.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to China.
Because we gotta move on.
But I want to say something about this because this is important. This gets overlooked in the media a lot, and it's frustrating. One of our biggest contentions with China is the flooding of the markets of inferior steel product, right? Mm. So now China in Pennsylvania, Bensalem, as a matter of fact, is building a steel factory. That's going to allow them to circumnavigate that argument and be able to say, hey, you know what? We got good quality steel. It's made in America. You know, and a lot of people don't understand these things. Like,
but it's going to be owned by the Chinese, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? That's exactly what I'm saying.
Exactly the problem.
France, for example, Kawasaki. I once worked for Kawasaki Railcar, put trains on the railroad. Cool job, right? Yeah, it's made in America on paper, but the money gets kicked back to Japan eventually, right? So, and your Kawasaki motorcycles, your Kawasaki power tools, your FunJoy stuff, right? That's actually made in a giant facility here in the United States. They have huge building. One building does nothing but motorcycles, quads, whatnot. Another one does nothing but tools. Another one does nothing but the train stuff. Another one does something, right? Then they ship them over to New York or wherever they're going to do final fab. But that money always gets kicked back to Kyoto.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, we got to move on to the next segment, but I just want to say about
It's
China.
going to happen with China too. That money's going to funnel back to China.
Yeah, of course. But one thing.
With U.S. steel.
Yeah, I know. I just want to
This
say.
should never have happened.
But no, just one thing I want to end the segment with was that one thing what China does. China is they'll play the long game. They're very patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they're not like the United States. Like everything we want it right now, like right at our fingertips. That's a problem with the United States. I want it now. That's what we're used to. But China will wait. They will sit there and wait and wait and wait and infiltrate. And from within, and they're not the only ones that are doing it. There's other countries doing the same thing. But so before we
go, I just want to say one more thing because this really gets my iron dander going on this thing, Bensalem, Pennsylvania. You know, Bensalem, Pennsylvania Steelworks, right? Mm-hmm. That was the place that made the steel that went into our U.S. ships and armaments and boilers and everything else that was made from steel in World War II that helped us get to victory. Now, one of the people who are main primary adversaries is now taking over and building it. The fact that they're taking and using allure against us, even if financially, is a problem.
That's the attack with whom?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a multi-layered cultural attack. It's attacking our history, our culture, our economics, all at the same time. It's a multi-layered thing. Well, yeah, I can't harp on that enough.
Yeah, that's the reason why I wrote what I wrote. So before our next segment, here's an ad by our sponsor.
Since the beginning of time, all living creatures rely on the sun's source of natural light to grow and to help promote overall wellness. We are all light beings. The patches are all natural and drug-free that uses the body's own natural light to help promote general health and wellness. How it works: simply place the patch on specific points on your body and where the patch is placed on your skin. It reflects back into the body when it's tapped into its own flow of natural energy, which in turn creates the GHK-Cu copper peptide, which rejuvenates your cells and gives you a more younger, healthier you.
All right, this is our second segment, but I want to say, because Albert did mention 9/11, and Wednesday marks the anniversary of 9/11, a day that forever changed our nation. We honor the memory of the nearly 3,000 innocent lives lost and pay tribute to the bravery of the first responders who ran towards danger to save others. In the face of unimaginable tragedy, we come together as one nation, united, strong and determined, but we shouldn't wait for tragedy to unite us again. As we remember the spirit of unity, let's commit to bridging our divides and working together to preserve the freedoms and values that define us as Americans. So, Jen, you got the next segment. Have that.
Thank you, Damon, and thank you for saying those words. I will be forever grateful for all those that responded that day, and I'm sure many like me on that day remember exactly what they were doing, and my heart goes out to everyone. My segment is the Biden Marxist presidency that we've been experiencing over the past couple of years. I think it ties in well with what we were discussing before, especially with China being a communistic, socialistic country. Marxism, socialism, fascism, they're all very similar in nature. And I think I've been reading a lot of opinion pieces that basically, have been discussing about how progressive his policies have been. Even if it's not completely socialistic, it's definitely on the verge of or introducing such policies. Are kind of feeding the way into it, especially even with China having more power, China's not very fearful of the United States anymore, and we're giving more and more, I guess, leniencies for them being part, infiltrating our United States and basically, like Albert was saying about even with this deal, taking over and basically getting us within. So what are your thoughts on Biden's policies in regards to China and just basically having the internal divide that's killing us slowly?
Well, my thoughts on Biden's policies, there's a luxury of having a podcast. I can't say this on my radio show, but they fucking suck. That's what I think about Biden's
Yes,
policies.
they do.
The worst president in modern day history, probably the worst president in history. And then we're going to have somebody like Kamala Harris come in with her radical left, BS. That's why I can't say it enough to everybody. You have to get out there to vote. Whatever, if you could find 5 friends, 5 coworkers, 5 family members, whatever it might be, that typically don't vote, get them out to vote. Mm-hmm. It's not about liking Trump as a person. It's about the policies. It's about what he's going to do. You can hate the man, but the policies work. Now, if we give it over to a socialist, Marxist, communist person like Kamala Harris is, mm-hmm. and her and Walz are the most radical couple to run for president and vice president. It can't happen. It can't. So I implore everyone to get out there and vote, and just talk to your coworkers, your family, your friends, put it on social media, just get everyone riled up to get out there and vote, whether it's mail-in ballots, whether it's early voting or on election day. Either one, just make it happen. What do you got, Albert?
Well,
You want to talk about local elections too, right?
yeah. Well, let me just touch on a few things. With regard to Biden and China, him and Russia, most of his policy is a policy of appeasement. If I leave you alone, you're not going to hurt us too much. It's pretty much what it is. But we're suffering, our friends are suffering, and that should not be happening. Period. And it's kind of preaching to the choir here, but that is the case. It's a policy of appeasement. It's what weak people do. I don't want to get into the fight with you because, I might get hurt. Well, sometimes you got to turn around and knock the bully in the nose to make him stop. Right?
Yep.
So it's what you got to do. So, I don't like appeasement. Right, and it makes us weak. It destroys us. The military's on the downside. We have a whole show on what they've done. You got Commissar Murphy here in New Jersey. You got Commissar Kamala over there as VP. Now she wants to. We're not going to go back. We're going to do this thing for equity, income earning, or whatever that is, and everything they've done has been destructive. Anytime look at California, raise wages. McDonald's are going over to robots, or we got businesses shutting down because they can't afford it. I mean, during COVID, every socialist thing that they wanted to employ, they did. The argument of bodily autonomy for abortion, they didn't use bodily autonomy for these supposed vaccine shots, right? Which weren't really vaccines; they're COVID shots, and a lot of people got harmed on both sides because of it. And for me, I like the argument of logic. If it's true on one side, therefore it must be true on the other. So if bodily autonomy exists on one side, bodily autonomy also exists on the other side of the coin. Okay, so bodily autonomy, if it comes for the abortion argument, there's bodily autonomy for the COVID shot. But there was no bodily autonomy for the COVID shot. It was government autonomy saying you will get this or else. People could not go to work. People could not go to restaurants. People could not exist in society, and they closed places down.
They try to use OSHA.
Right? Mandate. At first, and the argument shifted. They keep changing the mileposts. This is how you know there's a problem. Something smells rotten in Denmark. When no offense, Denmark, but it did come from you. But when you say the COVID shot will stop, it'll make you safe, and then you turn around and say, well, you got it, but now you need to get your friends and family to get it to keep you safe. Which one is it? Is it the shot keeps you safe, or you need everyone else to get it to keep you safe? Because therefore, the original argument that keeps you safe is false, and therefore it does not keep you safe, and therefore it does nothing.
And then you need to get another one, and then another one, and then another one.
And therefore, you're back to bodily autonomy. If you have no autonomy on one side, then you don't have it on the other. I mean, the argument can go is a crucible that can go both ways if you argue it logically. However, everyone wants to argue it from emotion. And no one wins emotionally. You have to win on points of logic. That's how you win.
Well, one thing that Ronald Reagan said in his speech, "A Time for Choosing," said something that how to say it? He said something that our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And he spoke about that in the speech, very famous speech, "A Time for Choosing." It's actually on my wall, my man cave turned toy room for my kids that they took over.
No longer, man.
Yeah, I know, man. They divided and conquered. They got me. So I don't have, tripping over toys in my man cave now. But I still have that speech on my wall anyway. But it's a good one. But Alex, we're gonna wrap it up a little bit soon.
Right,
You wanted to get to your
So locally, we've got Carmen Buca, District 20, New Jersey. His is a real important race. He's about fiscal responsibility, education, pro-police. We need to get him elected. Also, we got a mayor in Plainfield. Hold on one second. I'll pull up her name. People want to need glasses these days. It's the way of it, yeah. So we have Francine Gargona for North Plainfield, right? And then we also have in Delran, we also have, hold on. We also have for Hutchins in Delran. Delran and North Plainfield going through budgetary problems. The counterparts of Democrats are about overspending, more taxation, making it more difficult for the people to exist and get food, groceries, and fair education. These people that I mentioned are for those. They're also pro-police. They're also pro-responsibility. And they want to get the roads fixed. The roads are depleted. You got Delran worried about flooding, but they want to put a $15 million walkway through some woods that they don't need, instead of fixing the flood zones where people keep losing their property because of the flooding. They have roads that have been dilapidated, they're not under repair, they got problems with the sewage, but they'd rather spend the money on a walking path. They spent $80,000 on the last night out just on a stage that they could have gotten for $3,000 to $5,000. So, I mean, right now, the people in office are not fiscally responsible. They're irresponsible, and they're not looking out for the people's basic needs and necessities that needs to occur. We've gotten so far away from that. We need people who are going to do that, and we talk about a lot about national stuff, but the national is a reflection of the local. So please, if you're in those districts, get out and vote. Buco, September 18th, vote. It's a special election to fill a vacant seat. You'll have to be reelected again in November, right? But get out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. Call your friends, call your family. If you know anyone in that area, make those phone calls. I cannot stress enough. It's a win we need. These are 3 races we need. There's other races for November. We'll talk about them coming up, but these are the first pressing ones.
Well, people don't understand that the local races, they think that they're not the important ones, that the presidency is important or the Senate. But in order to get into those positions, you need to go start local first, number one. But number two, the people who make the president, yes, the president gets to make decisions and has like the highest, supposed to be the highest power, but really our Senate, the people that we vote for, our congressmen, our senators, our legislators, they're all the ones that are supposed to represent us and have our voices. And if we get mad when they're not doing their jobs and they're not listening to us, well, then we got to start thinking, well, why are we voting them back in? Why are they constantly getting voted? You got to make change in your towns. You got to pay attention to your county committee members, your local municipality committee members. I know I'm guilty of it. Years ago, I didn't even know who they were, what they did, what they stood for. But now, since I started to get involved in politics and started asking questions, I started to realize how important even those people are and how much influence they have. And there's corruption even at the lowest level. I was surprised how much corruption was at the lowest level. I knew there would be some, but there's a lot more than you realize. And, people need to get involved and start showing up and voting. Primaries are extremely important because that's who's going to be on your ballot in November. Now November's coming. We need to get out the numbers. You can't just sit back and say, oh, well, what can I do? One person can make a big difference. So you got to get out there and vote. Otherwise, we're going to have China infiltrating, and we're going to have people in Congress and people in Senate and people in our legislative offices not doing a darn thing. And you're going to have to just take it. So
They should have voted for us.
you should have voted for that.
Yeah, me too. Almost.
So here's the thing that our society has not been
We're getting our
taught.
voices heard one way or another.
Yeah, right.
Right.
We're not.
So here's the thing, and this is necessary to be said, and it's not taught anymore. There's a difference between a country and a nation. Okay? We in our own selves, in our own little local group together with like-minded people doing the same thing, going about school, shopping, getting together for church, for parties, or trying to make a ways, means of living and trying to coexist, working together. That makes a country. So in essence, we're each in our own little countries all around. And where we fail one, it affects the other because the nation is a collection of countries. The largest countries in our country, in our nation, are states. So each municipality, in essence, is its own country, right? Because it has its own means of moderation, it has its own means of legislation, it has its own means of moderation via law enforcement, rescue,
Yeah, they have their own constitutions.
economy, what you market out, market in, right? Constitutions.
Right.
So we're a collection of several different kinds of countries, right, that come together as a nation. That's really what it is. But we only work as a whole when we work independently. And right now, there's a whole lot independently not working, right, both physically and literally. We need to get jobs back. We need new kinds of jobs as well. There's opportunities coming around the corner. education-wise, we're not prepared. We're woefully unprepared.
No, you're
All right, and
And
this has been decades.
that's the Marxism and the
Well,
socialism.
it's more than that.
Trading into.
It's more than that because you spoke something about in your monologue, right? But it's a little off because actually it goes back to mid 1800s, the Frankfurt School of Thought.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do
Right.
remember that. Yes.
So it's been progressive for much longer than what your monologue was saying.
Yes.
Right.
It's been.
So these are a group of people who were kicked out of Germany over it. Right, it was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Then they came here and instilled it. People were like, well, this is a great idea, mind control in schools. Oh, God. And they've been running with it. So now we need to counter that. Okay. There's a reason why they took religion out of school. There's a reason why they took the federal papers out of school. There's a reason why they stopped doing that. There's a reason why they put control laws and, what you can say, how you can say it, this is bad. There's a reason why they changed words. It's all about control over time. They're playing a long game. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
they definitely are.
COVID woke a lot of people up. A lot of damage has been done. There's a lot of work to get to be where we need to be, but it has to be done in a way that doesn't disenfranchise or exclude anyone. Because there's still a lot of pain and hurt. Because whatever you may and I may feel, right? You're probably Italian, I'm probably Irish descent, right? I'm American first.
I'm in between them both.
But
I'm not.
there's an argument I heard from some people the other day. Talking about the immigration, give me your tired, yearning, hungry, and poor, you huddle masses, right? Well, if you go talk to an American of African descent, they're going to say it's a great poem, right? But they came over here and changed, not as a huddle mass, but they came over and changed, and they still can't breathe straight, right? A lot of them would say that because they have to watch their back all the time. That's
Why is that?
That's a sad fact in society throughout this country. Still, it happens.
What is?
What is?
What racial profiling still goes on. They live under threat in different communities. It does happen. I've seen it in places where it's been unfair. It's not.
I disagree.
It's not.
I disagree 100% there. 100%.
Well, you can disagree, but the facts are there. I mean, they're not. They may not be cataclysmic to the downfall of a country, but they're cataclysmic to the individuals and cities that they live in. Okay, you have children. The most racist things that happens in America today, you have children who are inner cities going to schools that they know are failing because you're preventing them from a better education to up themselves.
Because they don't.
That's even happening here, though, even in Cherry Hill.
But that's because it's Democrat-controlled cities,
Right,
which I'm trying to get to.
They vote.
And in order to get them free of this monstrosity, it's
That
for
they
them to
have-
vote Republican
they-
to get them out.
They have to vote. They have to even get out to vote.
It's not my problem the way people vote. That's the way I see it. It's not my problem.
It is.
It's not just voting. It's
If you want to complain about your Democratic city, and yeah, look at Trump.
and look at New Jersey.
And they-
New Jersey, sanctuary state.
They like foot
Look at all
out,
the
and
problems
they
we
voted.
have.
They voted in a more far left liberal as mayor of Chicago, and
Yeah.
Lori Lightfoot was out. So that's their problem. They just shouldn't have done
Look
it.
at New
But it
Jersey as a
doesn't
whole has been Democrat for years. When was the last time we've had a Republican mayor anywhere?
We haven't had a Republican congressman in 56 years.
Right.
In District 1.
Yeah, well, it doesn't change the fact that there's a group of people, right, who do look, because they are second class still in society. They are treated that way. Just because they may not happen in your own zone, if you get around, travel the country, you'll see things do occur that you shouldn't. There's places I've been to. I'm like, why is this happening? It shouldn't be happening. It does happen.
The way,
You can't say
the way I see it is, it's the same thing as DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's a quality of outcome. But everyone has equal opportunity in this country to do
That's what we were found.
something. Yes, exactly, and that's what it is. So if you don't want to move out of the areas that are bad for you, or better yourself, or you have the opportunity. You have actually, people. I mean, you're in the construction business too. I mean, in every job that I have, there has to be so many minorities on there.
Okay.
You have to. So they're actually given more of a chance to get ahead. So that's why I see it. So they're get. So
let's square this.
I'm not saying anything bad about it. That's fine.
But no, this is not white, black, yellow, or from Mars. You cannot say someone that's inside a city has the opportunity to move out of the city because economically or transactionally, it's not possible to
No, I did.
Not in all cases. A lot of
I
people
did,
cannot. A lot of people
and there's
are
a lot of people that
There's
have.
gangs.
Yeah,
No, there's gang controls, right? There's gang controls. Then you got the education system has a monopoly on a decreasing education.
Look,
No
let me
our
tell you this.
schools are
Hold on,
This
hold on.
country is built on meritocracy. And that's what it comes down to.
Have you seen what the quotes are?
Personally, I came from the city. Okay, I came from Northeast City. I have a sister and I have a brother. We all have the same parents. Our parents never divorced or anything. They were always there. People's outcomes are based off of their choices. My brother chose a different path than me and my sister. He ended up being a heroin addict. He ended up, living on the streets. He ended up stealing. He ended up in the prison system. He ended up on Medicaid and abusing the system constantly, over and over and over. He had the same benefits, the same advantages that the rest of us have, but chose differently. Sometimes in life, it's our choices that put us where we are. Not every time. I'm not going to say that it's every time. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me, and not everybody is going to be able to overcome them the same way that I have. So there are circumstances that may affect another person's outcome. Everybody's different, but everybody has that same opportunity to change their life. They have that opportunity. Do they always have the same resources? No, but they have to look to find them, because in my business, what I do for a living as a nurse, I look to give disadvantaged people opportunities and making sure that they have, barriers removed to get stuff. And sometimes you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Okay, so here's the thing.
That kind of mentality.
Okay, so
We gotta wrap this up.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up.
Sorry,
Okay. We have a lot of cities. We have a lot of cities where the jobs are left. There's no jobs there. Okay. Today, trying to get a home, trying to get a car, is beyond the reach of even our young people right now. Okay.
Why is
that's because of the inflation, because of everything with Joe Biden.
Yeah, but who voted him in?
People did.
Done.
The same people you're talking about that are struggling.
Some of them, not all of them.
So
You can't.
No, but we're all
Just like you say, you can't lump everybody. You can't lump everybody. But there's enough people that did.
The other point I wanted to make is Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill's known as being like a wealthier area than others. Okay, it's not the most, but it has predominantly a wealthy income. But we have one of the lowest. We have low scores in our schools.
Yeah.
15% math efficiency.
That's what I'm
in
trying
Cherry
to
Hill
That's what I'm
West.
saying. Our school system
Okay.
is failing, and we're not.
That's
prepared.
because
Nowhere
we're
near.
democratic. There's Democrat progressive policies in Cherry Hill
Well,
that are failing us
No,
over and over.
it's more than the Democrats. Okay.
No, I said progressive policies.
Well, it's more than that. I mean, it's part of something larger. If you pull off, like I did, if you pull off from the Department of Education, if you pull off from the World Education Monitoring System, okay, the ODDBC, okay, you will see how far the United States has fallen. Do you know, by those reports, a U.S. teacher spends roughly 1,140 hours teaching, whereas we go to Indonesia, they spend 900 hours a year teaching. However, in Indonesia, they have a higher intellectual recapture than we do here in America. So we have quantity, whereas they have quality. We lack in quality. We're still the greatest nation, but our education is falling to the point where we're not having to be able to compete. We have to bring in foreigners to do the tech jobs.
Well, because we're too worried about our feelings.
yeah.
Our math skills down. We need to be educating our children for the next generation of technology and sciences and be able to be function just for national security alone.
But this goes back to my point with the socialistic Marxism type of stuff. It's infiltrating. TikTok is a China-based thing. It's infiltrating our social media. It's infiltrating our schools. It's the thought process that's, of just making kids more lazy. I talked about it in the last segment about social media. Making our kids dependent. There's some kids that can't stop scrolling. They can just keep scrolling and scrolling, not even looking at anything. They're addicted to their electronics. They're not paying attention in school. They're just worried about their games. Our priorities are wrong as a country, and it's infecting us internally, and it's causing internal divide politically. It's also causing internal divide just educationally. There's kids that that are in China, like one of the stats for Cherry Hill East, their scores are better, and they have more Chinese students in there. And I'm bringing that up because they're being taught to respect education, to take advantage of these things, and to take advantage of the opportunities given to them.
Guys, I agree with you 100%, but we're running out of time,
Yes.
and that is a good thing to bring up on the next episode. We'll talk about it. So before our next segment, again, here's an ad by our sponsor for the Patriots Prayer Network.
Since the beginning of time, all living creatures rely on the sun's source of natural light to grow and to help promote overall wellness. We are all light beings. The patches are all natural and drug-free that uses the body's own natural light to help promote general health and wellness. How it works. Simply place the patch on specific points on your body and where the patch is placed on your skin. It reflects back into the body when it's tapped into its own flow of natural energy, which in turn creates the GHK-Cu copper peptide, which rejuvenates your cells and gives you a more younger, healthier you.
All right, and this is our last segment of our second episode here. And this is going to be every week. We're going to do this. This is actually my favorite segment because I get to present the Loser of the Week award. It's the Steve the Tank Cush Award. And Steve, you are going to thank me for this, buddy, because I'm going to make you famous right here. These are going to be selling like hotcakes, these trophies, Steve the Tank Cush, because he tanks campaigns. So the Loser of the Week, well, first I'm going to call somebody out. And I'm not going to call him Loser of the Week because it's our congressional candidate for District 1, Teddy Liddell. What are you doing? I'm not calling you Loser of the Week. I'm just calling you out. So hopefully you see this, and hopefully you have an event, have a fundraiser, do something, because you're going to get the floor wiped by Norcross. So to wipe the floor.
I'm on the show.
Yeah, come on the show. I've been asking you to come on my radio show. So I'm putting you out there. All right, buddy? So come on this show, come on my radio show, whatever it might be. But you need to start getting out there because Norcross is going to mop the floor with you.
In fact, if you're any candidate in this state, you want to get on the show.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yes. Contact us.
Yeah, well, we're going to have quite a few of them coming up.
Yeah, I got some on the list too.
But the Loser of the Week award goes to Liz Cheney. And I'll tell you why. In 2020, Liz Cheney tweeted that Kamala Harris is a radical liberal who would raise taxes, take away guns and health insurance, and explode the size and power of federal government. She wants to recreate America in the image of what's happening on the streets of Portland and Seattle. We won't give her the chance. Breaking news, Liz Cheney has endorsed Kamala Harris for president. Loser of the Week. So, and you guys want to wrap it up? Yeah, just do loser. Well, you can hold this up. I mean, everyone can grab it if you want to grab it.
What was that show they used to go, loser?
Oh, we gotta add. We gotta add.
Should put that one in
Because Trump said it a couple of times. We gotta get it to Trump cut. Like loser.
No. There was a comedy show 10, 15 years ago, and one of the taglines of the show from one of the characters was "the loser."
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what he said, it was great.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for watching. Catch us on our next episode. It'll be airing next Monday at 7 p.m. And God bless America.
God bless America. God bless you. Get out. Vote.
Have a good night.
And if you're tired, vote again.
Yeah. Raising the flag.